Would you look at that? We're not in the basement. I had to come up to use the big round table because this is going to be a doozy. Okay, actually, I lied. This isn't going to be a doozy. This is probably going to be the easiest thing that I make for Ren Faire this year. This week, I'm making a pirate shirt. Again. So this one is going to be following a little bit of a different formula from the other two. I will actually be trying to make some kind of tutorial today because this is something that I'm actually very good at and I have made multiple times, so I feel confident telling you how to make it. The other things, I'm just winging it and hoping it comes out and telling you about it afterwards. Today I am making a pirate shirt that's going to be layer 1 or 2 of my Ren Faire garb. I don't know if you count like shorts and tank top as layer 1 or if the actual first layer of the costume is layer 1. Base layer for my Ren Faire costume. So if you saw our TikTok and short a couple months back, I've been working on this for so long. My brain is fried. I've been working on a dragon puppet. But I have to have clothing to go under said dragon puppet. So today we are making a pirate shirt, poet shirt. There are a lot of names for it. It's the shirt with the flowy sleeves. It's very long. It's got the split neckline. Super easy to make. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do it. I learned from watching a couple different YouTube videos and reading a couple different blog posts. And once you figure it out, your brain unlocks. This is the perfect beginning sewer project because it's just rectangles. You're just sewing rectangles together. It's so simple, unless you decide to bind your own lacing holes, like I'm going to do. As we've been through, I like doing that and I like torturing myself. So we're going to be doing that. But other than that, just rectangles, super easy. We're going to go through the measurements and all the pieces that you're going to need for it. But I run it through the sewing machine and it takes like an hour to come together. The longest part is cutting everything out. All right, let's go. For this project, since I'm going to be wearing a lot of layers, I am determined to make everything as lightweight as possible. We're going to the Renaissance Fair in October. However, this is Ohio and there's no such thing as clear-cut seasons. So it could either be freezing and I will freeze to death, or it's going to be 1,000 degrees outside and I'm going to hate myself. I would rather be underdressed for cold weather than overdressed for hot weather. That's just a personal preference. So my poet shirt, I've never made one out of this material before. I've done like it was curtains. I've done the sleeves out of lace. I'm going to make an entire pirate shirt out of just straight up lace. This is black lace that I got from Joann's. I think the pattern is really pretty, and I think it's going to look really cool, and hopefully I will not sweat to death during the Renaissance Fair, because that is the worst. I would rather freeze. All right, before we get to cutting, let's talk a little bit of geometry. I said this entire thing is made up of rectangles, and I'm not kidding. This shirt is basically just 9 rectangles sewn together, and then you wear it. It's really that simple. So you need like your front and back shirt panel rectangle. You're going to need a longer rectangle that will be the collar of the shirt. You will have sleeves however long you want them. The sleeves will also include the 2 rectangles for the length and bulk of the sleeve, as well as the cuff pieces that you're going to cut out, as well as the gusset. The gusset is probably going to be the most difficult part of this, but once you figure it out, super easy. It just takes a minute of like, okay, upside down, right side out. All right, we got it. And then is that all the rectangles? I think that was 9. I think I said 9. So it's super simple. So what you're going to need is you're going to need to figure out how long you want your shirt overall, and that's going to be the longest side of your rectangle. You're going to figure out how wide you want the shoulders on it. So you can do it. There are a lot of ways you can do it. You can either doing it matching like the true top of your shoulder. I like to hit it a little bit of a drop shoulder so those sleeves are extra poofy. You'll figure out the length of your sleeve from about where you want that shirt to stop to about your wrist, because you're going to have the cuffs. And if you want that poof, you want the sleeves to be a little bit longer so that they cling onto that cuff and they have that nice voluminous sleeve effect. You'll need the measurements for your wrists and about how wide you want that cuff. I usually do mine so that I can get 2 or 3 lacing ties on there. So it's usually about that length-ish. And then for the collar, you really want it to be, it's going to be doubled over. So I would say go about 3 inches when folded. So that'll be 6 inches of fabric based on the circumference, the measurement around your neck. I don't know if I'm using the math terms correctly. So it is all going to be based on your measurements. So if you need help getting some measurements, it may be a little bit tricky to do the shoulders. I've done this enough time that I already have mine written down, so I won't be re-replicating that again. But yeah, shoulders, arms, shirt length, and then you're also going to want to figure out how far down you want that neck slit. So how open you want your neck to be, because it's going to kind of, that's part of the collar, is the shirt just going to kind of lay open nicely once the collar is attached. So yeah, that's all the cutting that you need to do. You really only need, I'd say, 2 yards of fabric to be safe, but depending on how tall and wide you are, I use a little bit more fabric because I like mine to be baggy, and I am a big person. So I tend to err on the side of having more fabric than less because I don't want to have to scramble for when I'm out of fabric. So let's get started into the actual measuring and cutting. Okay, right off the bat, I said the sleeve is probably going to be the most difficult thing, so I'm going to try to demonstrate that the best that I can. I have my, can't really see it, my sewing machine right here, and these are the sleeves. They don't look very much like much now, but they will, I promise. So the sleeve is going to be 3 parts. You have the actual length of your sleeve, you have the underarm gusset, and then you have the cuff. So this is going to come together in 3 parts. Give me 1 second. I don't know where to put this microphone. There we go. All right. So this is the length of your sleeve. The way that this is going to go, this gets confusing for a moment, but I promise it makes sense. So this is going to be more or less a tube. This end, which is going to be the end pointing down to our hands, it really doesn't matter which end because, once again, it's a rectangle. This end is going to be gathered so that it can be sandwiched in between this, folded over. So this is what your cuff is going to look like at the bottom. So this length here, you are going to run a gather stitch across the bottom and gather it down to where it fits within the confines of this. I believe mine is either, it's like 6 or 8 inches around. Your wrist is not very large. So it'll gather down to this, and that's where you're going to get a lot of that volume and that poof, depending on how long you have your sleeves, because that gather is going to give you that like flared out kind of like poofy pirate sleeve look. The most important part, and in my mind, the thing that took me the longest the first time I was trying to do this, is going to be sewing in your gusset. So, you know how in like shirt sleeves, you get this kind of shape going on. Oh, I hit the microphone. I'm so sorry. You get this kind of shape going on where it's got like the up and down. That's kind of what we're going for, but it's going to make sure that your shirt fits a little nicer than if you just sewed your rectangles together straight up. So at the end of this process, you will have, oh, that's the cuff, not the gusset. This gusset is going to attach to the sleeve in a way. I'm coming to find out that this fabric, much like all of the other fabric I've bought for this project, is very difficult and very slippery to handle. And I'm form over function, as I always say, but it's coming back to bite me in the ass. So this gusset is going to attach to the sleeve up at the top and is going to form, you can't really see it because it's black lace, this shape. It's going to give you that nice shape of connecting to your shirt, if that makes any sense. I also have it backwards. There we go. I promise I know what I'm doing. That is the shape it's going to make at the end. So it gives you a little bit more of that like actual sleeve shape, and it's going to fit a lot better, and it's going to make your arms a little bit more mobile, because actually the better fit the underarms of your shirts are, the more range of motion you have. So that's what makes this happen. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I want a little bit of space to be able to move and fasten my cuff. If I can get the frame, I want a little bit of space to be able to move and fasten my cuff. So I'm going like probably about four like kind of spread out fingers away from the bottom of the sleeve that I'm working with right now. And so that's going to serve as like the open slit, so that there's a little bit more maneuverability when trying to get your arm in and out of the shirt. So yeah, we're going to mark that just about like there, and that's the point that we're going to sew to. Shit. Don't you just hate it when you start running your machine and then it decides to unthread itself? That's what just happened. Yeah. I also feel like I should note, I've been covering up my mic this entire time. I feel like I should note that on this project, it really doesn't matter the tension or the type of stitch you're using on the machine. This is all pretty forgiving since it's all the same shape and it's going to hang pretty drapey and pretty loose. But for this, since I'm working with lace, I'm using a pretty close together zigzag stitch because there's a lot of like holes and stuff in this fabric, so I don't want it to fall apart on me while I'm wearing it. So we're using a tighter stitch and the zigzag pattern. So hopefully it'll kind of act like a serger and it won't fall apart. You know how I said the sleeve making gets a little topsy-turvy sometimes? Yeah, I messed this one up. Yeah. Yeah, this is sewn backwards. Great. I'm gonna have to rip this out and redo it. Wish me luck. In the thrilling conclusion of the shirt saga, aka you watching me sew for 20 minutes, we have a pirate shirt. So I did not get footage of me sewing the collar on because my phone was dying and I also had to go play D&D, so I just threw this on at a different time other than the one that I was filming. However, it does go very similarly to what we talked about with the sleeve cuffs, where it's sometimes you might have to gather depending on how wide you had your neck hole and how short you had your collar. But yeah, this is more or less done. I have not finished the binding on the lacing holes for the sleeves yet because that's going to take me like half an hour of hand embroidering. There's only 4 rivets, something, a word for lacing holes. So that's going to be super quick and simple. But yeah, that is the finished shirt. Any tips and tricks that I can give for this kind of project? Err on the side of caution when you're doing your measurements. So it is always better to go bigger than to go smaller because you can cut down bigger, you cannot fix too small. So I always advise that if you're a little bit wary about like not having your seam allowances down perfect, or if you're a little iffy about your actual measurements, always go bigger, always round up. And also this is supposed to be super baggy and flowy anyway, so it's totally fine if it's just a little bit big. It's a stylistic choice. Nobody can question you on that. So yes, go forth and make your own pirate shirt. I will be linking the video that I learned how to make pirate shirts from, the Bernadette Banner tutorial, so hopefully she will be able to answer any questions that I missed in my attempt to make a tutorial for how to make this shirt. You will be able to see this shirt when the rest of the ensemble comes together for Faire in 3 weeks. I still have not finished the puppet or started on my corset overdress thing. We're gonna get this done. It'll be great. All right, go make a pirate shirt.